I went to see the Marvels in the same movie theater where I watched most of the big team-up movies in the MCU. The first Avengers, Captain America Civil War, Infinity War, and of course Endgame. Since the pandemic started, the magic hasn't fully come back, and I'm not so sure if it ever will. I do think that the MCU can reinvigorate the quality of its products, but earning the people back after letting them down constantly is not so easy. And this is why I ask if this movie destroyed Iron Man's legacy. And yes, Iron Man here is just a symbol of the first three phases of the MCU, when Marvel created great movies that brought people of all ages together. The Marvels, at least for me, sets a new low for the MCU. Those pre-pandemic years had something in common when it involved Marvel. The theater was packed. You had to buy the tickets the moment they were available, and it was natural that you were going to run into some high school acquaintances. I know that Marvel hasn't always delivered great movies, but I think that most of the time they had something to offer in terms of creativity and practical use of imagination, something memorable. The Marvels doesn't offer much. However, there's a strange feeling because the plot, at least if you think about it, focusing on the villain, it's not that bad. A nation that was defeated while fighting against a more powerful force and that has incorporated segregation in its society now seeks other sources of power in other nations with a militaristic approach. A familiar story, but the execution was done very poorly. The villain appeared to have only one emotion, and her backstory was briefly shown through flashbacks. And by the way, this movie was just filled with flashbacks. Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and the villain went through this to explain crucial aspects of their psychological profiles. But the flashbacks were quite limiting because they could not convey a lot of emotion during a brief scene. Also, about emotions, they all seem to be very predictable and generic. Even though some scenes between our three heroes are meant to be touching, the reality is that it almost feels like they had to incorporate them, not because those moments were earned. The element in the movie that seemed to have the biggest emotional weight was the family of Ms. Marvel, but honestly, I don't even know why Nick Fury would take them to space. I cannot think of a good reason, and it's frustrating because they probably are my favorite part of the movie, but it's tarnished by a big plot hole that could have been easily fixed by a line or two of explanation. On the other hand, I believe I only saw one action scene that actually entertained me, and it was the one in which they first learn about the switching. They are in Ms. Marvel's house, and then they're in space, and then with Nick Fury. I thought it was well executed, but I don't think that the switching was properly justified. I guess it was because Dar-Benn used the other bangle to open a portal, and then Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau both touched the portal at the same time. However, it seemed like an easy solution to having the switching so they could meet. It's almost as if the writers thought that the only way in which these characters could cross paths would be by having the switching. So they just touched a portal the same way Monica Rambeau got her powers by going through Scarlet Witch's hex. It's just very convenient. I also hated the planet where they have to sing to communicate with its population. It almost felt like Disney wanted to get away with a musical scene as if the Marvels were a Disney animated film. However, perhaps the element that made it even weirder was the fact that they don't really explore the planet. They arrive, sing for a bit, Dar-Benn initiates the attack, they go through a portal, and that's it. They don't even explore the culture to make it a relevant section of the plot. Also, what about the scene with the cats, aka the Flurkins? Of course, they are cute, but do they expect us to believe that Nick Fury would only have 2 escape pods in his super advanced spacecraft? That was just lazy writing from my point of view. By the way, Fury was supposed to be at the top of his game after Secret Invasion, but he's just a comic relief in this movie. And where is his wife? Are they going through a fight and that's why she's not even mentioned? I also have to talk about the scene where Monica closes the portal from the other side of it, so she gets stuck to meet Beast, the X-Men, and all of that stuff. And just as we all know that Jack could have fitted on top of that piece of wood at the end of Titanic, we all know that Monica could have closed that portal from this universe, but they needed to introduce a new franchise. I think that's the main problem with this movie, which is similar to other failed movies in the MCU. They are focused on expanding the cinematic universe. They are so eager to introduce new franchises and characters that they forget to focus on quality stories and characters. The latest Marvel projects that have been great were not focusing on expanding the universe of their protagonists. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, Moon Knight, and Loki, the central aspect was character development and a compelling story. That's why I sadly give this movie a 3 out of 10. But what do you think? Do you give it a higher or lower score? Comment below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and for now, I'm out.